Hey there everyone, and today I want to talk to you about procrastination. Hey there everybody, my name's Dave, aka Mindset by Dave, and for the past 4 years I've been working as a mindset and mental health coach, helping people move forward with whatever it is that holds them back up here. As well as videos here on YouTube, I also stream live at twitch.tv/mindsetbydave every Saturday evening from 7 PM till 10 PM and every Tuesday daytime from 10 AM till 4 PM, where we have mindset and mental health discussion live on stream. As well as that, you can also jump in the Discord. The details for that are now up on screen and also down below. Anyway, on with the content. So procrastination is something that holds so many people back, and I think virtually every single one of us has been guilty of doing it at some time or another. But given the fact that we know it's such a problem, why do we still do it? See, it's one thing not knowing what we need to do in order to move forward, but once we actually do know and we know what the steps are we need to take, well, if we're not doing them, what does that say about us? This is a process I've been through on my own journey, because at first I didn't really know the things that it took to help with my mindset or my mental health or even my physical health, and I had to go away and learn those things. And when I did learn them, I kind of was filled with this big amount of momentum and then just went for it. I went wholeheartedly into those things and quite often was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know about this sooner. I'm now going to do this forever. But I didn't. And then we move past that stage into the whole stage of, well, I know what I need to do, and I used to think it was so important. In fact, I still do think it's so important. So why don't I do it? And I made this the topic of the stream recently, and we had the conversation live on stream about why do we not do the things that we know are good for us? And we got some fantastic answers back. And even though there was a lot of different answers, they all sort of fell into 3 different categories. Number 1, that these things were difficult. Number 2, that they'd rather be doing something else. And number 3, that the person actually didn't feel like they deserved the good things. Now, going into number 3 and talking about self-esteem would be an entire video on its own. And as soon as I get around to doing that video, I will link it above, but it's not been done yet. And as for number 1 with it's just difficult to do the things, this is, I appreciated people's honesty on this one. However, we're doing a mental health stream, and let's face it, living with depression, living with anxiety, living with OCD, whatever it might be, isn't exactly easy. It's just a different kind of difficult. Which leads me to number 2, that you'd rather be doing something else. And rather than that being the whole thing, which is a super simplification of it, I want to delve into the principles and the ideas behind that. So you'll have probably heard instant gratification getting talked about both on this channel and many other channels if you're into personal development. And this is part of the principle that underpins all of this. But it's not just instant gratification, it's instant feedback. See, even though there are tons of different types of goals out there, most of our goals fall into one of 2 categories, which is either seeking pleasure or avoiding pain. And ultimately, it's only the human part of our brain, the most recently developed part of our brain, that is able to look at long-term consequences. There's a fantastic book called The Chimp Paradox by Professor Stephen Peters that I would massively recommend, where he talks about how we've got the chimp part of our brain, which is basically dealing with what do I need right now. It's not thinking about if I have my banana now, I won't have a banana later. If I have my sleep now, I won't be able to sleep later. It's not thinking like that. And that part of our brain is still very much in control a lot of the time. And the human part of our brain needs to be armed against this. It needs to understand exactly what's going on so that it can actually help us to move forward. Because often when we come up against a struggle in that moment, we then start looking and labeling ourselves and calling ourselves lazy or calling ourselves a failure or a loser. These things are just going to drag down your momentum. And when that momentum gets dragged down, things get even harder to do. In fact, that chimp really wants its instant gratification. Now, everything we do gives us instant feedback, not necessarily gratification. And the habits that are good for us, it's hardly ever that we procrastinate on something that gives us instant gratification. More often than not, the things we procrastinate on give us instant struggle, or at least instant discomfort. You may have heard me talk about this principle in a video called Slingshots and Boomerangs. The majority of things that are good for us are these slingshots, and in the moment that we've got to do them, they're not comfortable. We've got to pull that slingshot back. We've got to put the effort in before we get the reward. And even though The human part of our brain knows this. The chimp, the bigger part of our brain, the stronger, more primal part of our brain, doesn't care. So we need to use every weapon in our arsenal in order to overcome this, because we need to realize, yes, it is going to be difficult, and that is okay. That is not about me. That is about the fact that the task is difficult. And instead of getting into a pattern where we shy away from these difficult situations, and that becomes our learned behavior, that we come up against difficulty and we just let it slide for another day, we want to start building that momentum in the right direction, where some days we go, okay, it's difficult, but I'm going to do it anyway. Each time we do this, we build that momentum up a little bit higher, and the actual battle we're having with that chimp gets easier and easier over time. But on the flip side of this, as we talked about in the video that talks about how we get better at the things we do often, by shying away or by procrastinating more frequently, we get really, really good at that. And therefore, that almost becomes a foregone conclusion. There are certain things that actually really help with procrastination. I'm going to go as far as to say that if you are the type of person that procrastinates, you're not the type of person that sits on the sidelines in a true crisis. When something is imminent and needs attention right there and then, you probably don't go, yeah, I'll just finish this tweet, or I'll just have 5 more minutes on Tap Titans. You almost certainly would rise to that occasion, and having a necessity in that moment can actually be really, really useful. The same is true with deadlines. Actually having a deadline by which time something is done by can be extremely helpful in this situation. You may find that you procrastinate all the way up until the last minute, but then when the last minute arrives, the work gets done. Where this can be very, very difficult is where we have things that we're trying to be proactive with, and that we don't even know what the reward is going to be about these things or when it's going to come. I'll put my hands up right now and say that for the past few weeks I've been nursing an injury, and my procrastination has been terrible when it comes to doing my rehab work. So in order to combat that recently, I've started using accountability, checking in with people about whether or not I'm doing it, and I've now made it so there are certain things that I enjoy that I don't get to do unless I've first done my stretching. Utilizing tools like accountability and deadlines, even if these things are self-imposed deadlines that you tell your Discord group about, or you tell your friends about and you ask them to help you stay accountable to, these things can be extremely beneficial in reducing the amount of time that you procrastinate for. And the other thing that can be really good is just cutting down on the time that you procrastinate for. So instead of saying, I'll come off this in 5 minutes, as soon as you realize that the procrastination is there, you cut it short. You say, right, no, forget 5 minutes, I'm coming off this right now. Because we are designed to seek pleasure and avoid pain, and because we actually value immediate feedback, we are always going to find it easier, more pleasant to go for the thing that actually gives us instant gratification, even if that thing comes at a cost of our time, our success, and our happiness. Because ultimately, we're not thinking about the long-term problem here. We're only thinking about what do I want to do right now. Accepting the fact that the thing that you want to do is going to be difficult to start off with, and that is perfectly normal, is the first step. Moving and actually then taking the step and actually doing some of the work towards it is the next step. And then actually being accountable, whether that's to yourself by having a happy dance or like a full-on reach and grab, or by having an accountability tracker online with Trello or Monday.com or something like that, or by using a group. Each one of these things is going to make changing that behavior so much more easy, because that actual accountability gives you a little bit of instant feedback there and then. Whereas the thing you're working towards itself might not give you the feedback until 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months, 2 years down the line. We want to associate instant feedback, positive feedback, with the thing that we're trying to do. So the second you stop procrastinating and you start moving into the thing that you're actually proactively trying to do, I want you to celebrate the crap out of that thing. This sends a signal to your brain, the thing I have just done is good, it is rewarding, therefore I want to do it again. And as a result, you go back, you do it again, and it becomes easier over time. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this content, and if you have, please hit that subscribe button. Remember that it is priceless to you, but it is priceless to me. And if you want to talk about these things live, remember that it is twitch.tv/mindsetbydave. And again, the Discord is down in the description, and I would love to continue the conversation with you. I'll see you down there.